Hey Matthias, have you ever heard the number 3691-4?
Sounds like a new phone number of yours.
Actually, it's one of the most important norms for HV implementation.
Yeah, and that's why it's important to take a look into all of these safety regulations, because as we're going to learn, they might bring you to jail.
Automation Awakenings, your weekly dose of best practices for logistics automation.
Yes, welcome to the next episode of the Automation Awakenings podcast. Today with a rather theoretical topic, norms and regulations for HV implementation and usage.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Everyone loves this topic.
everyone loves it, but what we will discuss today is we will try to show you that they are sometimes really useful. You can learn from them. And if you are not respecting them, what will happen?
You're going to go to jail.
Exactly. So I think it's worth to spend an episode on that. And yeah, Matthias, if you think about norms in the AGV context,
Yeah.
what comes into your mind?
I think before we start talking about safety norms and regulations, we have to distinguish between safety norms that apply to the whole system and safety norms that apply to the individual vehicle. Simply as a first split, because the norms, the phone numbers, and all of these crazy acronyms we're going to talk about in a second, they do not necessarily apply to both of these topics. In most of the cases, actually, they just apply to one or the other part of the coin.
So can you explain us a little bit more what does that really mean now?
Let's take it easy and start nice and smooth. So for the system safety, you have to consider not only the vehicle itself, but also the periphery that you want to operate with the vehicle. Classic example is minimum width of aisles or certain regulations at handover locations to prevent humans, putting their hands in there or something. So really seeing the whole ecosystem and ensuring that this ecosystem is safe to be operated in the industry you are in. So that would be the system safety. And then the vehicle safety refers more to the vehicle itself. So the vehicle shouldn't run into obstacles. Could be humans, could be bicycles, could be forklifts, if it is meant to be operated in an environment that has mixed traffic, right? So there needs to be special safety features in the vehicle, special also norms that need to apply when it comes to these features that prevent that this vehicle is doing damage to itself or to the rest of the environment or the other actors that are in touch with it. I would, in easy words, that would be my distinction between those two aspects.
Okay, that's important to structure the norms we will talk about. And let's start with a very famous norm then. Everybody knows, at least if you are from Europe, and that's the CE certificate.
Oh, yeah.
And it's most famous and most important if you want to use an HV and AMR in the European Union. Every device must have the CE certificate, because only then it's guaranteed that this device will work according to the regulations and safety standards which apply for Europe.
Yeah.
So in other words, you are not allowed, and this might bring you into jail, you're not allowed to use any device without it in Europe.
Yeah. We just recently discussed it in one of the other episodes when I asked if I'm the business owner and I have my production plant and I don't care. I just want to buy whatever vehicles I want to operate. In that case, without CE certification, that would bring me into jail the moment this vehicle is causing harm to especially a human.
Yes, or even before, if somebody finds out that
Yeah.
you're operating it.
Yeah.
And of course, this only applies to Europe, right? So
Yeah.
if you are somewhere else, it's not a requirement. But most of the international companies think about the CE certificate also when using these devices outside of Europe, because it's just a safety standard which brings you on the safe side.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I also mentioned in this other episode was that if you have the CE certificate, also all devices and which are part or components of the
Yeah.
AGV are also certified by CE. So of course you are not allowed to change also, for example, a sensor in a CE certified AGV with a non-CE certified sensor.
Yeah.
Then the certificate will no longer be valid.
So what happens if, let's say, I have a maintenance need for my mobile robots, and one of them is changing the sensor because it got damaged, whatever. I understand I have to buy a specific product that is CE certified or maybe released by the supplier of this AGV as an
Exactly.
official, like a spare part. And do I need some kind of certification that it's been built in correctly to make the CE certification continue to be valid for this vehicle, or is that not relevant anymore?
For the certificate itself, you must use certified components. That's all. And it's like the certificate is not explaining how to change the components or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it just needs to be a CE certified component, and I guess it's also stored in some kind of maintenance record that
Exactly. Yeah.
this part has been replaced by this other part, which is CE certified.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So very
Good to know.
important topic.
Yeah. So CE, quite clear.
Yes.
What do we have next?
Yeah, then the famous norm I discussed at the beginning, the 3691-4. It's a ISO norm, so it's an international norm. And this norm is interesting because it's talking about what you should take care about when implementing an AGV. And of course, the focus is safety regulations. But what is also interesting that it's talking about how the AGV should behave, how fast it should brake, accelerate, turn. And it's not only a norm which you need to comply with, but it's also helping you in implementing AGVs, because you can use it as a checklist on the way to the go live of the AGV. Yeah, so norms are not only bad and disturbing you, but they might also help.
Okay, but this particular norm, does it only refer to the safety norms and regulations for the vehicle itself, or also to the whole system or the periphery, let's say?
As far as I know, this norm, it's regarding the whole system.
Yeah.
Not only the single device.
Okay, understood. So I guess you can go into this norm and you can also find out minimum width, minimum distances, and so on and so forth. So it's your place to go for all kind of information that you need to really check your shop floor.
Yes.
With regards to readiness for mobile robot usage.
Yes, and in this direction, there's another one.
Okay.
It's also regarding system safety. And I also recommend it as a reading for beginners in the AGV business. So basically, I use it as a manual and learning document, and that's the VDI norm 2510. So VDI, it's the Association of German Engineers,
Yeah.
and I really like this. It's a norm, but it also explains you what type of AGVs are existing, what is the difference between AGV and AMR, what kind of navigation technologies exist.
Ah, seriously.
Yes, so it's like uh, our podcast, but written as a norm,
Yeah.
and it's available in German and in English. And for me, it's a must read for everyone in the business.
So you say the VDI 2510 norm, right?
Correct. Yes.
And this one is more on the whole system
Yeah.
view or on the particular vehicle view?
It's talking about the whole environment,
Okay.
including aisles, including how several devices should behave, interaction with humans, like emergency stops,
Okay.
the whole package, I would say. Yeah, and it's really described in a good to read way, including pictures and so on.
Yeah.
So it's not a boring norm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have something similar, which I also recommend. I, however, do not know if it's also available in English. That's something we could check. But in Germany, we have the Leitfaden FTS Sicherheit.
That sounds very German.
Oh, yeah. It's very bulky and edgy, even name-wise. And it basically says a guidebook for the operation of manless transport systems, right? So it sounds already a bit dusty, but bit similar to the VDI 2510. It's also more than just a norm or like a law book. It's also explaining a lot about the usage, operation, and the circumstances that you need to really run a mobile robots application. So with all sources, destinations, driveways, vehicles, charging stations, etc., in a proper manner. So for all our German listeners, definitely that's a go-to as well, I can recommend. And for the English ones, you can still stick to the VDI 2510, which, as Olli said, is available in English as well.
Let's stay with bulky, old school German norms.
Oh.
There is a very famous one, the ASR 1.8. And now be careful, yeah, it's the Arbeitsstättenregelung.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it's actually written by the German Social Accident Insurance.
Okay.
Can you believe that? The Deutsche Gesetzliche Unfallversicherung, DGUV.
Ay.
Yeah, and it's a must to read it, not only for AGVs actually. And what is interesting about this norm, it's again talking about the whole system, but also about the implementation of AGVs, including topics which you would not expect in a norm, like employee training. What should an operator know about AGVs?
Ah, okay.
Yes. And
Cool.
also maintenance.
Okay.
What are basic maintenance topics you should cover when using AGVs? And of course, all the typical safety issues, how fast it should stop, interaction with humans, and so on. So also an interesting norm to read, and much more than just a theoretical text to comply with.
Yeah. Sweet. Then maybe I continue with the ones that are more law-like again.
Okay, yes.
And I'm going to go into the vehicle norms section again. So I have two additional additional ones that I see. And my first one is the ISO 13482, which applies for the requirements, or which covers the requirements towards mobile robots. And another one which goes this direction is the ISO 10218-1. Again, really tackling the robot itself specifically with all the norms and regulations that shall apply.
Yes, in addition to that, there are several pretty special norms for certain environments. I think this would lead now too far to deep dive there, because it really depends on the environment you would like to implement an AGV. And there are norms on let's say, country level, Europe level, and so on. Just to give you an example, there is the EN 1525, a norm discussing safety requirements for AGVs if you would like to use them in explosive atmospheres. Crazy what is existing, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a very specific one. Explosive environments sounds more like a bar on Friday night than a than a production plant. But maybe you also have these, I don't know, like gases or this mist, right?
Yeah.
Like an oil mist or something like that. Maybe that's also going into this direction.
Yes, and here you have to take care, if you have such an environment, to comply with these norms. Because again, here we are in an area where we are talking about the law, right? You have to comply with these norms because it's according to the law. So check if there are special norms applying in special environments.
Yeah.
But don't worry, this is only... I mean, you will know that you are working in a special environment.
I have one last bulky one.
Okay.
And it's not German this time.
All right.
Which I also recommend without being an expert here, to be honest. But for all our listeners in the US, you might want to go and check the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, regulations, to see whether they have specific regulations that apply to AGVs or AMRs in the industrial settings, especially with regards to safety and hazard mitigation.
Okay. That's valid for the US only?
Yeah, that's a US, how do you say? That's a US authority. That's the right word. Yeah, it has a quite long name as well, so it goes a bit like the German one.
Yeah.
So they also have some bulky ones, but coming back to the topic, you could also, or you should also go and check that and see whether there is any particular requirements written down there.
I have another one from the US, which is not an authority, but an association, the Robotic Industries Association.
Okay.
RIA. And of course, they have their own norms and directives. And there is the most famous one, the RIA R1506. And it's basically a guideline including AGVs, but all kinds of robots.
Okay.
For industrial applications.
Okay.
Yeah, but they are also mentioning AGVs there, and this might be an interesting norm for sure for our colleagues in the US. But as always, you can use this as an inspiration for any kind of AGV project.
Yeah. Cool. That's been quite
a lot,
quite a bunch of norms and regulations we found out. maybe to summarize the top 3 regulations you should check, Olli?
Yes, sure. So let's start with the CE certification.
Yeah.
Most famous, very clear for Europe. You need to comply with that.
Yeah,
Easy.
totally. Yeah, and there is a special label for that. I see even our mics here have the CE certification, so we cannot eat them or they do not harm us. So your robot should also have this very characteristic CE certification somewhere on it.
Absolutely.
And also as a document, right? Not
Yes.
only as a sticker.
Exactly. Then the ISO 3691-4. Very good one. Also explaining a little bit how to implement an AGV.
Yeah,
And in this direction goes also the VDI 2510.
perfect. So that shall be the starter kit for all of
Yes.
you out there who would like to dive deeper into the safety and regulations topic. And I firmly believe that after going through those documents and really making yourself familiar with it, you will get a way better understanding of what is possible and what is not possible. And maybe this will also help you to really prevent making quite expensive mistakes, buying something that doesn't really fit into your environment, into your shop floor, and which needs to be adapted with a lot of cost.
Yes, so of course we will link all these norms and regulations
Yes,
we
please.
talked about, because it's difficult to remember all these numbers. And we hope you got our message that norms and regulations are not there to bother you, but they should help you. And today you got some examples. There are, of course, even more. And so we hope that this theoretical episode is also a value add for all the practitioners out there.
Olli, perfect. This time, the conclusion of the episode from your side.
Sure.
Great to hear, and it's nothing to be added from my point of view. So thanks everyone for tuning in. I actually had more fun with this episode than I expected.
Yeah, me too.
So let's hope you have the same when you read those documents, those regulations. And as always in life, it's all about the mindset you have when you start. So wish you a good mindset. Take care and hear you soon again.
Bye-bye.
This was another episode of the Automation Awakenings podcast. Visit us at automation-awakenings.com